Growing up, my grandparents were such a huge influence in the traditional country music in my life, and they introduced me to the Opry and Keith Whitley and Randy Travis and Dolly, and I just remember listening to those songs and feeling like those were authentic to what life was about. And it's something that I don't think any other genre has really been able to touch because I think country music has such a deep rooted, authentic, genuine storytelling aspect that it makes the listener just be able to relate and be able to place themselves in whatever they're listening to.
This is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, this is Kate Clover.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Hi, my name is Madeline Rose.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
It's Tim Howard here from Mike and the Mechanics.
Hello, I'm Amanda Lehman.
I'm Billy Harvey.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Casey Sampson from the band Twist Stop.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Mitchell.
Hey, guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
You're listening to Almost Famous Magazine.
Come join us for this interview. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Welcome back to The Hang, everyone, right here on Almost Famous Magazine. I'm your host, Scott Saldinger, and every week we bring you musicians from around the world, from all types of genres. You name it, we've had it here, and we continue to do it weekly. We really appreciate you coming back. Anyone new, please, you know what to do. Subscribe, ring the bell, help us out. Believe it or not, it helps out the artists that are also on the podcast because as these things bubble up in people's feeds, they get more exposure as well, and that's exciting for them. Also, if you're the kind of person who likes to take your podcast on the go, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more, so you can have the hang wherever you'd like. Today, we're joined by Nashville's own Tyler Kohrs, a musician whose journey began half a world away and took him to television screens countrywide here in America, both on The Voice and I Can See Your Voice. His songwriting blends raw honesty with a distinctly Southern storytelling style. Say that 3 times fast. He's carved out his space in Nashville with a sound that balances traditional and modern country, drawing listeners in with heartfelt lyrics, dynamic performances, and a genuine passion for connecting with an audience. We're going to dive into his journey, his inspiration, and what's next on his musical path. Tyler, welcome to The Hang.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me all.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm excited to learn your story today. We tend to start these conversations out at the beginning of your musical journey, right? And I don't know if that started in Korea, if it started when you came to the United States, but like, what came first? Did you find music or did music find you?
You know, music found me. None of my family does music. I was adopted from South Korea, and my mom is a RN in the OBGYN field, and my stepdad, he's a construction worker who also is an author. And so I'm the first person in our family that do music, and I just feel like music found me in a really good spot. Grew up with my mom. We would go on long car rides, and she'd listen to Hillsong or Shania Twain. So it was those two things as I was growing up, and something about what was coming out of the radio really stuck out to me, and I was just like, I want to do that.
Well, what are your earliest recollections? I mean, there's so many different styles and genres of music. There's something in country that touched you differently than any other genre?
Yeah, so it was the songwriting. I think, growing up, my grandparents were such a huge influence in the traditional country music in my life, and they introduced me to the Opry and Keith Whitley and Randy Travis and Dolly, and I just remember listening to those songs and feeling like those were authentic to what life was about. And it's something that I don't think any other genre has really been able to touch because I think country music has such a deep rooted, authentic, genuine storytelling aspect that it makes the listener just be able to relate and be able to place themselves in whatever they're listening to. And I think that's so special.
Yeah. Well, growing up, I mean, you were adopted. How did your Korean heritage kind of shape your identity around music, given that, country music tends to be a little more distinctly American?
I grew up in the town where I was very much so one of the very few Koreans. I grew up in the town of 2,500. We were a farming community. We'd bring your tractor to school day. Cornfields were all around us. And so I didn't necessarily ever see myself as super different in that aspect until I got older and started to get told by people that there's no lane for an Asian in country music, and for me it lit this thing inside of me that I was like, well, if there's not a lane, I'm gonna pave one myself because there's no other genre I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what kind of challenges did you face, kind of shaping your identity given those factors?
Yeah, I mean, I've been told by different people in the industry and some of the television shows that oh, if you were to do more pop music or K-pop, there'd be a lane for you and we would love to have you. But I was like, that's not going to happen because that's not me. And there were moments of defeat where I was like, well, I can't change that about me. But what I can do is keep writing the music that I love and keep singing the songs that got me to where I am today. And I just was so headstrong on finding the people that would not only accept something different in the country music world, but also just embrace it and start believing in it as well. And I'm really grateful that I have found people within the Nashville community and people all over who are relating to it and they're understanding it, because at the end of the day, I grew up in probably the most southern rednecky kind of area that is really about country music, and that's all we listened to growing up for the most part. And I just was like, my skin color might be a little different, but other than that, I'm me. So
have you found any challenges kind of overcoming some of, you just used the term rednecky, but, people who are challenged with seeing a larger picture of humanity? Have you struggled with overcoming people who just kind of don't get it or don't feel that you're in the right place?
Yeah, because people see me and then they're like, what are you doing in country music? And I'm just like, I don't know what you mean by that. I think country music's for everybody. I think what really stood out to me is in 2014, 13, maybe earlier before that, at one of the ACM Honor events, Cam and Alicia Keys did a version of Girl Crush by Little Big Town. And I remember Alicia Keys got up on that stage and said, music transcends all boundaries. And to me, that stood out because it's like, you don't have to look a certain way or be a certain ethnicity or race to understand and feel music. I think that's one of the biggest blessings we have when it comes to music, is that you just listen to a song and you can connect to it, and other people can too, that you might not have any recollection of who they are or anything about them, but a song can tie you two together, and it's just really special what music can do. And so, there are people who don't get it, and I think we are thankfully in a spot in country music in general where there's a lot more representation being noticed. And, people like Mia Jones over at CMA and Rizzy Palmer are really leading the way for opening the door for more representation and people being seen in country music that haven't had the opportunity. And, I'm grateful that I have been one of those people that they're, backing and kind of just embracing and being put into the spotlight of oh, hey, this person exists and they have such a heart and a fire for country music, and we need to support them.
Yeah, I mean, it's always amazed me that, we divide ourselves through black, white, Mediterranean, Asian, you name the culture or place on the planet, but truth be told, a middle C is a middle C wherever you go on the planet. And it's an international language that everyone uses that can connect. Yet we divide ourselves because of the things that are more on the outside than on the inside.
Exactly.
So, well, let's talk about your music and your art a little bit. Where does songwriting come from for you? Are you experiential? Does it just come out of the ether? Where do you find your songs, and how have you kind of landed on the style within country music that you're trying to create?
No, that's a really good question. For me, it's all experience. And that's, one of the main things I loved about country music is people writing about their life and what they've noticed around them, or just people that they know. I think about songs like "The House That Built Me" that Tom Douglas wrote, or it may not have been a country song necessarily, but Jessie Alexander, who's a big country artist and songwriter, she wrote "The Climb," and it was all based on the fact that she had been here for 13 years and just felt the weight of struggle and wrote like one of the biggest songs. And to me, it's just like, if I can't connect to a song, I have no business singing it. And so I'm going to write about my experiences. I'm going to write about, my life. And so I pull from what I know. And if, for some reason it doesn't click, then it doesn't click. But at least I know I'm being authentic and genuine to myself. And then hopefully people who are listening to it, they'll get it. And they'll be like, wow, someone else understands me the way that is like in my head or whatever. So, yeah.
Have you had an experience where someone's listened to your music, whether they've purchased it and reached out to you over the internet or at a show, and come up to you and really like bonded with you over the fact that what you have to say connected deeply with them?
Yeah. And, right now it's so funny to me because one of the songs that kind of took off for me in a way that I never could have imagined, it was a song that I did not write, but I was very fortunate to get to do it while I was on The Voice. And it was a song called "More Hearts Than Mine." It was written by Ingrid Andress, Sam Ellis, and Derek Sutherland. And I remember the first time I ever heard that song, it was on the radio, and I had to pull over because I was just like sobbing, because I was just like, it's just one of those songs where when you hear a breakup song, you're like, oh, it affects that person or affects the person singing. But this one specifically was about like the family and the friends and all the people that they meet. And so for me, family and my circle of friends, they're at such a core of what I do. And so I connected with that. And so when I was very fortunate, to release my own version of it, and people were taken aback, like, oh, a guy's singing this song. So it's a different perspective. And I couldn't have told you the things that have happened with that song, like why it happened the way it did. Like, it got played over in the Netherlands on their radio station and it hit top 40. And this is a song that already went number one. It's been nominated for Grammys, CMAs, and like for some reason my version was just hitting different. And I remember the day I kind of understood or got like a bigger picture of it, I got an Instagram DM from this woman who is in the business, and she was just like, I want to thank you for doing this song, because to me, it made me remember growing up and my dad always saying the difference between How Do I Live by Leanne Rimes and Trisha Yearwood. She's like, Leanne Rimes always sang the song and sang it beautifully, but when Trisha sang it, I believed it and I felt more. And when I listened to your version, you're the Trisha of that. And I was like, that's one of the highest compliments I've ever had at that point. I was just like, you never know what's going to hit with someone. And so for me, it's always so important when I either am in the studio or I'm doing a live show, I'm leaving everything out on the table, because you never know who you're going to affect. And so that's one song for me that, like, yeah, I may have not have wrote it, but I was able to use my entire life building up to this point and put it into that version of that song, and I couldn't be more grateful for it.
Nice. There are happy songs, there are sad songs, there are challenges in writing. Do happy songs come easier to you? What comes easier to you to write about? And then what creates the biggest challenge for you to write about?
Biggest challenge is going to be those happy songs and upbeat songs. I have been told my entire life that ballads are my thing and slower songs are my wheelhouse. And, it comes out of me. It like flows out of me. But when for some reason we need to do an upbeat song or something that's a happier topic, it's like I have roadblock. And it's like being able to start to break out of my comfort zone and shell a little bit more as I've been growing in Nashville and just writing with different people. It's opening those doors for me to be able to be like, ballads are my thing, but I also want up-tempo things because I'm not going to do an entire concert full of ballads. That's going to put people to sleep, And so while it's a challenge still to this day, I love pushing myself, because if I'm not pushing myself, then I am settling, and I don't want to settle in this business. I want to have a trajectory where I'm going to leave a legacy. And so for me, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. I'm going to push myself harder and put myself in situations or rooms where I'm working with people who are better than me, because I want to grow. I want to get better. And so, while ballads are always going to be like at the core of what I do, I also love getting to do songs that are upbeat and just like bring in the fun and also just bring out some real positivity. And so while they are not my strongest, I'm working on it every day. And I try to, at least if I'm doing a whole week of writing, one or two of the songs have to be up tempo, because otherwise I'm like, well, we're not growing. So yeah.
Have you in the Nashville community found a writing partner or writing partners that you've really started to focus on the collaboration with?
Yeah, so before coming to Nashville, I was writing by myself, and so when I came here and saw that co-writing was such a big thing, I was like, let's dive into that, let's figure it out. And it's kind of like, in a way, and I'm not the first person to ever say this, but it's kind of like dating. You're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, and you're just trying to see if you guys click. And so I have found a handful of songwriters who I always go back to if I have certain ideas or something. There's a very talented songwriter. His name is James Rose. Y'all look him up. He is really taken off this past year. And he's just someone that gets it, and he gets to the core, and I love writing with him. And then I've written with a guy named Matt Young when I first moved to town, and he was here, but he's over in Australia. And then there's a guy named Doris, and he was here visiting, and I didn't realize he was visiting at the time, but he's over in the Netherlands. And, it's, again, one of those things where music is so universal, where I'm like, and country music is like that too. So like, I'm not just writing with Nashville songwriters, I'm writing internationally with artists and songwriters. And it's such a really cool opportunity because it just brings in different perspectives, and I love it. And so, yeah.
No, I mean, having that type of diversity is I think may just help you actually get out of the traditional Nashville kind of thing, the traditional country, and give you a better flavor, so to say, right? You're just going to give you more flavor to your work, given that you're working with people who live in other areas that are not necessarily just country based. So I think that's a great thing for you. Tell me the story about how you ended up on The Voice. I'm curious. How did that happen?
So growing up, I was a big American Idol person. One of the main reasons I started to do music was I just vividly remember seeing Carrie Underwood win season 4. And I was like, I want to do that. And because I was in such a small town, I never thought I could. But Carrie Underwood auditioned in St. Louis, and that was 40 minutes outside of where I grew up. And I was like, okay, so anytime we had a paper, I'd write, I want to be the next American Idol. And so once I turned 16, I started auditioning for that. And then around that time, The Voice came out, and there was like America's Got Talent and all these different things. And so I just started auditioning as much as I could. And because, again, growing up in a town of like 2,500, there's not a lot of opportunity. So I just vividly remember sending in tapes and auditioning. And, I always got rejected at those times. And I just was always so determined to just figure it out on how to get on. And then eventually, like, I was introduced to Nashville and was like, oh, there's other ways to do it without those shows. But I would still audition and stuff. And then, 2019 came and I got to do a live audition with them. And then they were one of the ones that were like, it's just not, there's no lane right now for what you're doing. And so we're not going to do it. So I was like, okay. So then 2020 hits, and we all know what happened in 2020. COVID happens and the world shuts down, and just, no one was doing anything. Live music wasn't happening. And then I get emails from 3 different shows. America's Got Talent, The Voice, and it was, I think it was called Color Me Country or something. It was on Apple Music, and like it was with Reese Witherspoon. And they were just like, we want you to come and audition. So I was just like, you know what? We're not doing anything. Let's just try. I hear back from the Apple TV show and The Voice, and I had to kind of pick at the time. And so I was like, well, that show over at Apple's not picked up yet. It wasn't promised it was going to. So I was like, let's go with The Voice. And then we're doing all the interviews on Zoom and everything. And then they were very intrigued with my story, how I was an Asian in country music. And then they were also like very intrigued because at that point, this was my 83rd attempt to get on a television show. They kept track and I kept track, because when you fill out these applications, you have to be like, what shows have you auditioned for and how many times? And we calculated it, and this was my 83rd time, and it just showed persistence. And so we ended the Zoom stuff in May of 2020, and then I didn't hear back until August of 2020. And that's when they told me that I was going to be flown out to LA and we were going to do the show. And we were there from the end of August of 2020 and probably till like October of 2020.
So let me ask you this. What is the most valuable lesson you learned on being on The Voice and going through the process as a musician?
Oh, I learned a lot while I was out there, and I think the people aspect was like one of the best things. But I think for me, the best thing that I can tell people when they go on audition for these shows is that it's a television show at its core. It's the first thing, because they really do, and it's not vicious or anything, but they want to get the best out of their contestants. So they make you think like, if you don't do well on the show or you get cut off at some point, that's the end of your journey when it comes to music. And in reality, it's the end of your journey on a television show, but it doesn't exclude you from what is capable of happening in the music world. And, I'm a prime example of that. I was like one of the first people cut on my season, and yet I'm the one that, took that opportunity and really used it to my advantage, to where out of the 90 of us, I'm one of the, at least in the top 10 of people who have done the most since the show. And, we're such a big family too. I mean, we also have group text messages with everybody, and we're just always checking in with one another. But, it's just, I'm grateful for my time there. And I was like so in like a dream world because again, this is something I had wanted for so long, and so getting to do it and get to do it with such an amazing group of people. It's so I it's like, yeah, remember it's a TV show, but also just enjoy it. It's not everyone thinks like because it's a competition too, everyone's going to be cutthroat, everyone's going to be out for themselves, when in reality it's like we were so supportive of one another and we just wanted people to do well. And so embracing the fact of community, that's another big thing when it comes to those shows.
Nice. Let's turn to your music for a little bit. Let's talk about that because and I'm full disclosure, everybody watches, I'm more of a punk and a rock guy than I am a country guy. So let's just say I'm not aware of your catalog of music, which, by the way, everybody, Apple Music, you can go purchase his music, buy Tyler's music, support his efforts, support his journey. Of the songs that you have out there that you've released, if I didn't know anything about your music, what are the maybe 2 to 3 songs that are the best introduction to who you are as an artist? They don't have to have been just a single. They don't have to be, a fan favorite. But to you, which 2 or 3 songs do you think people should start with that best represent who you are as an artist?
I love that question. The first one, it's not released, but it's on like my Instagram and YouTube and all that. It's a song I wrote right after I got back from The Voice called Hometown Proud. I wrote it with James Rose and Luke Turkovich, and it was all about just wanting to make my hometown proud. I'm the first person in my entire family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, to move out of my small town. And when I set off to do this, the biggest thing was not to just make myself proud, but make them proud and make everyone back home proud, because we're such a small community where everyone knows everything about you. And so I wanted to represent Trenton, Illinois to my best ability. And so we wrote a song called Hometown Proud, and that's one I still do to this day. And people they resonate because we all have left where we're from in different areas of our lives to go chase a dream. It doesn't have to just be music. And I love hearing people come up to me and them telling me how that song resonated with them, because they also left what they knew to go pursue something that they thought would be bigger than themselves. And so that's one of them. And then wrote a song with Yep Doris and Aiton Snyder and Stu Basham, and it's called How to Lose Someone. And Yep was the guy that put it on his debut album, and we called it good. And then I started playing it at Writers Rounds, and a couple years after that is when he called me and was like, hey, we should put the song back out and do it as a duet. And I was so excited about that, because when we all wrote it, we're at different parts of our lives. And so while the title is How to Lose Someone, that has so many different interpretations. It could be you mourning the loss of someone who had passed on, or it could be a breakup, or it could be just like, and not just necessarily like a relationship breakup, but like a friendship breakup. And so everyone has different parts of themselves that have lost something in their life. And so when we did it, I was going through such a hard time, and I just was like, it came at such a beautiful moment, because I was able to emote everything I was going through and being like, this feels right. And so that is a song in my career where I'm just like, I'm so grateful that, it was a song that was already released. But the artist and the songwriter came back and was like, let's do it together because you're a part of it too. And I was grateful for that. So that's a really big one. And then the other one I would say is, it's called When You're Gone. And we wrote that at a writer's retreat a couple years ago. And it was when my grandmother had passed away, and she was always at the core of our family. And that was the person that when I decided to make the move to Nashville, I had to get her blessing first. And that was really the only one that mattered. And when she told me that it was about time, I just was like, I felt such a weight lifted. And so when she passed in 2020, I just was like, everything I do it's going to be for her. And so when we wrote that song, I felt so much of myself being poured into that. And I was very fortunate to get to debut that song at the Bluebird Cafe during my Bluebird debut. And it just was so important. It just felt like a moment. And I had my parents there, and it just was something that I'll never forget. And so that song to me is also one of the ones that have made me into who I am. So, yeah.
All right. Well, everyone now knows where to start. So make sure you go out to Apple Music and get those songs and enjoy this catalog. Now we're rounding out the year. It's late. We're coming up in the holiday season. What does 2026 look like for you? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, so I have some really big stuff coming up in 2026, and some I can't say yet, but one thing is that I have a brand new song coming out in the beginning of the year. It is another duet, and it's with an artist and songwriter in town named Rebecca Howell, and she was on The Voice prior to me being on. But we have a song called wow, I just blanked. Oh my goodness. It is called
It's now going to be titled Blank.
Yeah,
it's going to be Blanked.
Exactly.
Just rename the song Blanked.
Oh my gosh, exactly. It's called Blank. Why am I blanking so bad? Healing Side of Hurt. Oh my gosh, she's going to kill me when she sees this. And I'm going to kill myself. Like, how the heck did I forget the song of our song?
No, you have quite the career ahead of you. Please don't even consider that. We need you around for a while.
Sorry.
So what is the name of the song again?
Healing Side of Hurt. And it is, to me, is the 2026 version of A Little Bit Stronger by Sarah Evans. And it's the story that it talks about just, when you're in the middle of a breakup or, again, losing someone. And it's this great period of, like, you're still healing, but you're still hurting. And so it's tying those two things together, and just, when I first heard it just resonated with me so much. And I was just like, I think there's something really special here. And so when we came up with the idea that was going to be a duet, I was like, I get to sing with one of my favorite people in town and do a song that just, I think, is going to resonate with so many people and help them. Because, to me, when a breakup happens, your close-knit group of friends or your family, they check in on you and they're surrounding you for like the first week. And then after that kind of fizzles out, and you're kind of expected to either move on by yourself or just kind of suck it up and deal with it. And so this is a song for those people who are going through that middle part where they're not fully healed yet, but they're not completely broken. So Healing Side of Hurt with Rebecca Howell, it will be out at the beginning of the year. And I couldn't be more excited for this to be my first single for the new year, because it is going to be so exciting. And I'm so grateful that I get to be a part of it.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Let's talk a little bit about, musical influences. Who are some of the musical influences that you've had that, in life, we hear something, we see something, and the biggest honor, and you talked about legacy earlier, that we can ever give anyone is taking a little bit of them and keeping it alive and depositing it somewhere else. So who are some of those musical influences that you've had over the years that really have kind of deposited a little something that you decide you're gonna put it into your craft, you're gonna put it in, mix it into the stew, so to say, and create your own with it? Who are some of those?
Oh my goodness. The first person I think of is Carrie Underwood. To me, she was such a monumental influence growing up. And again, she is the reason I wanted to start to do music. And so I've been so grateful to get to watch her career and meet her a couple times now and just continue to be inspired by what she does and how she's not afraid to try something different and just be the powerhouse vocalist that she is. And so to me, she is one of those people that has influenced me so much to my core. And then Keith Whitley was a big one. Like, Don't Close Your Eyes, When You Say Nothing at All, those are the songs that I will always keep at my top. And when it comes to storytelling, he was one of the best. And I just remember listening to those songs with my grandparents and feeling something at such a young age where I was like, I have no connection to these yet, but you believed it. And so that would be one. And then, over the years, people like Brett Young, Dan and Shay, and Brett Eldridge, who really kind of took country music a different direction when all that was being played at the time was bro country. And they sang about life, they sang about love, and I was able to relate more to that. And so people like that is really important to me because I'm not going to be the bro country artist that people sometimes expect. But I'm going to be able to be the country artist to sing about life, sing about love, sing about heartbreak, and give you something really authentic and genuine.
Excellent. Now, we live in an interesting world these days. Used to be, if you were a musician, what you had to worry about was, coming up with a dozen songs, you put them on an album, you get a photograph, you put the album out, you're on your way. Now, musicians are wrapped into this whole creative culture, being a creative, having to create content that isn't necessarily music. How do you feel about that? And what are some of the things that you have done to overcome some of the challenges that there's so much content out there so that you stand out in the crowd?
It's a whirlwind, Scott. There's days where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I have to remind myself, anyone who's posting on social media, they have no idea what they're doing. They're just posting and throwing things at the wall and hoping one day the spaghetti noodles stick. I think we're at such an age where everyone's wanting content now. And so I make it a necessary thing where if I'm going to take a time to film like a cover video, I'm going to do about 5 or 6 at a time. So that way I just have content built up. And I was at an event with TuneCore, and one of their artists, Alexandra Kay, who's incredible, was talking about how she has to post 3 times a day. And also to where if something doesn't necessarily hit the wall on Monday, she'll repost some of those on like a Thursday or Friday, and it may blow up. And so it's one of those things where just because if you post a video and it doesn't do well, it doesn't mean the content is rubbish. It just means it didn't click that day, but it still has the opportunity to bloom and turn into something. And so, we're in a creative time where just content is consistently overflowing on social media and everything, and because people take comfort in that. And so finding ways to switch it up to where for me, I'm like, yeah, I'll post some live performance videos some days, and then there's some days I'll just post a cover that I'm doing on the piano or with a karaoke track, and then there's days where I'll post stuff from events I go to, or occasionally here or there something's trending like a dance video. I will attempt it and be okay if people want to laugh because, for me, it's the stuff that is kind of kooky and just doesn't make sense of why they're doing it. It's the stuff that will take off. Like when we were promoting a show, I did a dance video for Russell Dickerson's Happen to Me because it was like the biggest thing for the beginning of the summer. And that was one of the videos that took off because it was just me not caring and kind of just being my genuine goofy self, and was like, okay, if people want to laugh, great. If they want to come to the show, great. And because of that video, people came to the show and we sold tickets and it was great. But it's just, there's no set formula to how social media works. And I've asked people, because I have a buddy of mine that's like one of the heads over at TikTok, and I was just like, what's the secret? And he's like, there is no secret. It's literally just, again, taking that handful of pasta and throwing it at the wall and hoping that something sticks. But
yeah, it's certainly a challenge to figure out what's going to connect with people. I mean, I was watching a video about, you know, what people like, and for whatever reason, you know, fail videos do better than success videos. But you're working towards success. But in order to get that success, maybe you have to fail. So it's like it can be mind numbing trying to figure out. And in, you know, my experience, I think it leads a little bit to people being inauthentic as opposed to authentic. You know, I like the fact that you are truly authentic in the way that you write your lyrics, and you're willing to put yourself out there, fail or success, good or bad, and just keep trying, you know, especially all the times you tried to get on to television. There's a lot to be proud of there. You know, I'm always interested in this, right? I'm personally not a bucket list kind of person. I'm just a go do it kind of person. But people have bucket lists and dreams and things they want to do. If you had an opportunity, because you never know who's watching us today, if you had an opportunity to get in the studio with one other artist to collaborate with, who would it be? And I'm going to give you a piece of advice before we do this, right? Okay. If your choice is Prince, it's going to be a little challenging. So I encourage you that if it's going to be someone, let's go for someone that you can actually be in the studio with. We have had people try to you know, have named people who are no longer with us, and I'm pretty good at what I do, but I can't make that happen for you. But you never know who's watching, who may know that person. So who would that person be, and why would you want to create with them? What is it about them that puts them at the top of your list?
I love this question. For me, over the years, this artist and songwriter has just resonated with me so much. And so, Carly Pearce. And it's because she is also one of those artists. For me, she is the epitome of perseverance. If perseverance just never gave up on her. And so she is an artist that, you know, she had a few failed record deals before her single Every Little Thing kind of taking off. And she was at a time where females were not getting played a lot on country radio, and especially ballads by a female were not doing well. For that to be her debut single and it go to #1, and her just have this trajectory of, you know, an artist who just felt in their DNA and their blood that this was all that they wanted to do, and she was able to do it. It just speaks volumes to me. And I have had the honor of getting to have conversations with her and get advice from her. And, you know, the songwriter, Emily Shackleton, who helped co-write Every Little Thing and What He Didn't Do, who was such a big part of Carly's career, she's been like a mentor to me. And so I've been able to see different sides of Carly and, you know, see just this person who took all the rejection and turned it into something really special. And so I just think whatever we could create into a song in the studio would just be something magical, because there's so much passion there, so much drive for country music, and also just, it would just be fun. I love her to death, and I think we would be able to do something really special.
Well, there we have it. Carly, if you're watching, if you're watching, I'm honored. But anyone out there who knows Carly, has a connection to Carly, let's make this happen for Tyler, right? It always makes you feel good when you make something happen for somebody that feels good in their life. So let's see what we can do with that. Everybody, as you know, who watch and you stick around to this point, we're all about supporting our artists. You know, having a subscription to something that you pay a little bit and the artist doesn't really profit from that is not a great business model. It's not a way that Tyler can make a living to keep bringing you his music. You know, being out there, being able to tour, being able to support. Believe it or not, you got to pay for merch before you sell your merch. So please, there'll be links below. Buy Tyler's music, support Tyler if you see him playing in Nashville or anywhere that might be somewhere that you might be, and take the time to invest in your artist, whether it be Tyler or anyone else. Art just isn't free. And now more than ever in a business model where the diminishing returns are coming to the actual artists, we need to be doing that and supporting them more than ever. So please do that. The links are below. With that said, Tyler, there's something fun I enjoy doing because I love learning about musicians' taste in music, right? Because you'd be amazed that sometimes what you're creating yourself isn't what you listen to at the end of the day. So we're just sitting here hanging out, and I'm always interested, who are 2 or 3 artists that, whether you take them to the gym, you take them in the car, you take them on the walk, you meditate to them, or we're just sitting here going, this is amazing music, you got to hear it. Who are 2 or 3 artists that you think myself and our viewers should be listening to?
I love this. First person that right off the bat, Emily Ann Roberts. She is taking off in country music, and she's finally getting opportunity that she has worked her butt off to deserve. And so she just signed with Sony, and she has been putting out music for over almost a decade now. And she is phenomenal. She is as country as they get, and I love her to pieces. And she's just so genuine of a human, and she's kind of taken social media and used it to benefit her. And so she has great music out, and so I would say her number one. And then I've been listening to a project I've loved lately is Charles Kelly, who's of Lady A. He released an album not too long ago, and it was nothing that we've heard from Lady A, but it's kind of like a throwback to 80s music, and it's so good. And I just went and saw him play that album at the Exit in here in Nashville, and it was so good. And because I love, aside from country, I grew up loving 80s music too, and so this is really a testament and throwback to that. And so that is something great. And then my duet partner, Rebecca Howell, she has great music out, and she's consistently putting out new stuff, and she is someone that I will throw on music because she is one of those people that she's just fun. And it's great running music when I'm out in Centennial and running, and it keeps the motivation going. So those are 3 artists I'd be like, go check them out, support them because they're phenomenal.
Fantastic. I'll have to check them out. For all of you who have stuck with us this long, you need to check them out as well. And you need to support Tyler. Tyler, this has been a great opportunity to get to know you. I wish you all the success in the world. If I ever get to Nashville, I'm going to come and check you out performing for sure. And everyone who's stuck with us, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back every week and just spending time to get to know these artists that we talk to and hang out with. It's a lot of fun, and it's a way to really memorialize their story in kind of a unique way. And you never know where these conversations go. So thank you for watching. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week with another hang. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Tyler. Good to meet you.
You too.